Hi everyone, it's Maria from Jadot Le Papier. Welcome to my channel. I'm excited to present book one of my Dior collectors series. I had so much ephemera that I've been saving over the last 2 years that I've been scouring eBay and tearing out of books, really, and magazines, whether it's friends in France or here in the US who have helped me collect. So I'm excited to share this. This is the biggest, by far, journal book, handbook book that I've ever made. It's actually 11 wide, so the hard book cover itself is 11 inches wide and over 14 inches tall. A collage of quilts. Sorry about the shaking camera, but my camera is way up high just to be able to capture this, because if you see how my hands are at the bottom, I can fit over 2 hands lengths just to cover the book. So it does have a removable top, which is actually something that you can change out depending on what you want your cover with. Jump right in and show you. This one will be for sale. I won't be able to keep any of my Dior collections just because, for now at least, my work is still inconsistent. But that's a different story. So you'll have a lot of ephemera that I've placed on top with this collage quilt, hand-stitched, slow-stitched, and these fabrics are from Sarah at Petit Papier or Crafty Paper Bits in France. And I took bits and pieces that either represent Christian Dior's favorite colors or fabrics that represent the garden in Granville, because this book one is Granville and me, and how his early garden years actually reflect or influenced his fashion and eventually his makeup and accessories. Miss Dior. The cover is actually, the base of it is an antique French lace that's still on the darning paper. So you'll see the darning paper, and not all the darning was finished, that I've split up into 2 pieces to cover 2 of the books. And I've embroidered sort of a wildflower scene straight onto the fabric, which still shows some of its foxing, and on the back of course, is the fabric house of Dior, or the Granville home, the museum. And this button is actually the last of my Russian buttons from Miab, a brown paper parcel that I purchased a few years ago. Christian did love to travel the world. Let's see. This is the tallest I can get. Let me pause. Okay, I'm back. I'll refer to these pieces of ephemera later. Again, you can actually change the cover. A lot of these are pockets, just so you could hide secret notes. On the side here, I have a little button. I should have done the little snap button, which was tough to sew. So you could hide some notes and or ephemera on the side. Slow stitching of the flowers or the embroidery. You'll see why these flowers are here. There's a special bottle of perfume. Of course, little vintage playing cards. This one might be antique. Some washi tape with different flowers and pinks and perfume bottles, vintage perfume bottles. Right here has a little scrap matchstick book, so you can actually have little bits and pieces to collage with and or make covered paper clips with. This you could actually stick in a couple of pens or secret notes here. This one is a side pocket so that you can see a little bit more of the antique lace. I think this one is partially, yep, you can put in a pencil. Sorry for the shaking. So you're going to see a lot of floating book pages, because again, I couldn't make because of the branding, copyright, trademark. I had to go with originals, either original book pages, which will be free floating throughout, so you can interchange your cover. You could also pin your cover using your T-pins. You could use different T-pins to pin on any ephemera that you might have. You know, since this is a fabric backing. To a quilt that I got from Junk Journal Sisters that has stars. Stars are actually an important part of Christian's beginnings to create his own fashion house. A star on the ground, and that was his sign to go ahead and start his own. And keep in mind that this journal has ephemera that's a little more simple, just because he liked these black and white sketches early in his career. He wanted a swab of fabric, and that was pretty much it. So the ephemera is not going to be over the top. Junk journal, because as you know, I like to make my journals using traditional bookbinding, and so you do have your curved spine. Each leaf, which is basically a folded piece of paper, is stitched individually using what is it? The French stitch. I'm so sleepless lately. And then I do back it with mull, but for the first time ever, because of the weight and the different sizes of pages, I built what's called an Oxford spine. So an Oxford spine is basically a hollow where you glue part of the hollow onto the back of your text block or your sewn pages, and then the other part is actually glued to the spine. So you'll see this, the fabric has the quilting underneath the French fabric. It's also glued to the bookboard itself. So this is very heavy duty and probably the heaviest journal I've ever made. Mine, there will be 3 of these, and each one will progressively get bigger and fatter. And you know, I normally don't like alligator mouth. So even though the spine is a 3.5-inch curved spine, and the alligator mouth is more like 5. But I will include a box. I'll try to take a Polaroid of each and just put it in the book so you know where the dresses go. But I have this Christian Dior box. They're Dior archives. And they actually pack away the most rare or the early dresses in tissue and keep it in a temperature-controlled room. And they actually, you know, stuff the dresses with tissue. I'll try to put a picture on the screen just so that they keep their shape. So any of the fluffier dresses that I'll be making, I'll put in this box. On the inside is a wallpaper that I got from Sarah, and it's a French toile wallpaper, pink and white. So embossed wallpaper. Again, these are original envelopes because it's hard to find over the years actual packaging unless you go to eBay. I'll leave this out in case we want to use it. And this is an original piece of embroidery tracing paper. And I wanted to make the cover of this, but then I saw the Miss Dior. So you can maybe, if you're an embroiderer, I'll leave you some carbon paper to trace this onto your own fabrics. But again, this is about Granville and the original gardens and how they influenced Christian Dior and other couture houses of their designs. So these are original pieces. I got some labels or these little tags, Lovely Lotties, and I decided to number the ephemera that I got, for example, from eBay, just because they are originals from the museum of the early family photos. Photos of these arched arbors with roses, because the property had mostly roses. They had hydrangeas, which my mom has, and then of course it has the map of Granville on the back. But what I liked about this ephemera is the fact that it had a French newspaper clipping. So this one is from 2008. Granville, the latest show that they were having. And then of course a map or a layout of the venue, and I like that this person had notes all along here. So, and they even sketched a little dress, if you could see that. Original magazine pages from Sarah in France, so French magazines. Any American magazines is from my friend Susan here in the US, and I love this because it's again the Miss Dior, which is the basis of all the wildflowers on the cover, and because every page really is different. I used washi paper, different Japanese papers that my friend Carol brought back from Kyoto, because they really are the strongest and in traditional use in bookbinding, just because of their flexibility but strength. Here's part of your Dior ad. Oh, this has a little piece of the perfume still in it. I love collecting these things because in 20, 25, 50 years, someone will find all this original ephemera. Another museum collection brochure from eBay. I love that the house is on it. So on the back, you saw the fabric house, which I'll show again one more time. But here's the evolution and the history of the different designs. It's on there. This one is from 2013, the collection that was shown there. And I love the notes again on the back. Oh, and this one has the timeline, including history of his birth, January 21st, 1905, and then he died in October 1957, there, 24th of October. Wallpaper, pocket, giant pocket on a fabric page here. And this song, he actually had a musical background and he wanted to be a composer, but he wasn't very good. But anyway, this is My One Love. It looks similar to their Belle Epoque style house. So this pocket here with some antique French ribbons and a bumblebee, because without our bees there would be no flowers. Flip the page and it's a fabric page with another ephemera from the museum in Granville. And here's a map. So remember this map, the house is right here, which is the north west side of France, of Normandy. And remember this coastline, because I'll have rebuilt that there. Position is from 1996. Love book plates and books. So I put it back in the book and bound it straight in. Another ephemera piece in this layout here. It's a magazine article. This one comes from England. I'll have to look up the year just so the person has it, because it's not on the magazine pages. And the front of, and then some of the fashions here. And then here, I love how he just drapes fabrics around models without having them cut. So he just takes them from the bolt and starts wrapping. And that's actually the style that I make my little miniature dresses. I wrap, I like to sculpt the dresses and then just stitch them in places to create the shape. Also show you a couple of paper doll styles. I use some templates from Sasebo. Original book plate that's floating. And I'll try to have all the descriptions of each dress. This is an actual jacket, cupola coat from 1955. Could be your cover if you want to protect the quilted cover. And then it'll have some sketches and information on the back. And I try to put some fabric taping along the side. Stout sleeve and very big and flowy, because I suspect this was also the original. These aren't the originals. There's two originals, but these are digital copies that I made of a student's fashion design school homework from 1926. All one lady. I think her name was Eloise. The granddaughter had just sold it, so I have, maybe 100 of these sketches from her book. And I tried to take the ones, including patterns, and enlarge them. So this one, if you look at, or if you sew, a lot of sewers and seamstresses like to draw onto this brown paper. So anyway, so what I did was I reimagined what this coat would be like. I think this one was in wool. Theater coat, but look at all that tulle. Over 200 yards of tulle at the Paris Opera House. The Adelaide ball gown, 230 feet of tulle with a silk opera coat on top. Looks like Hitchcock, but I think that's not. Anyway, I reimagined it as a maroon opera jacket, and I gave it a belt instead of a big bow, a more streamlined look. The original jacket itself was a red, the color of life, according to Dior. It was his favorite color. With the here's your stout sleeve. I gave it more of a folded kimono style, and again, I was influenced from my friend Carol, who just came back from Japan. Little tulle sticking out. So this is actually glued onto this brown paper here. I had sketched it out first, as you can see. Here's her little leg sticking out from under her dress, and then gave you some of the stats. For design student, you can make your own designs. Here's another piece of ephemera. This is actually a greeting card for a great Happy New Year. And there's that, and it's from Granville. It's a Granville holiday card. And if you look at his designs and turn them upside down, they look like flowers on branches. Backed onto this original French book page on hand-painted wallpapers of France, a box cover of perfume. There's some perfumes that you lift from the top to get to the perfume to the bottom. Again, everyone's, whether it's their scents or designs, influenced by our gardens, with handmade paper, so you can label what it is in a little embroidered D. but it also comes with a little lipstick. So the magnetized cover, pretend it's the box. There's a perfume bottle, and then here, and it's magnetic attachment so it doesn't float too much. But this is actually a bookmark from Sagita, and I love the windflower or the Japanese anemone on the cover and the stitching she did. So all I did was I added this little bit of the slow stitching yarn that I used to slow stitch on the cover. So I just clipped it here. You could journal on the back, and that actually is what is magnetized on the magnet on the back, so that it just clips in place. But this is one of the original wallpapers, hand-painted wallpapers of France that came with the book. Made a magnetic closure so you can hide some journaling or notes in the back, or a dedication in the back. I recreated and added last minute to the cover of the book, or the Japanese anemones. So, any details? Your lipstick, also in the same line. Oh, this digital here is from a whimsical adventure. So I'll link all of the digitals. Your lipstick. This is your handmade paper that had the little flowers. Then I made a little lipstick using floral playing cards in the back there. And then there's your little cover, the makeup line, such pretty packaging. And then here's your first and only butterfly pin. The two pins, or the two charms on here, are silver. So the real silver that's going up in price to like $35 an ounce or something. I just say that because I like to trade silver futures. Anyway, here are some photos that represent his siblings. They're not exactly his siblings because I think the Dior Museum has copyright on them. Die cut, French die cut from Sarah, Crafty Paper Bits in there. This represents his older brother that passed away and had a mental illness, unfortunately. And then this is a description of the wallpaper on the previous page, the French wallpaper. Behind it, you'll notice whenever you see these ads, you could actually purchase the digital versions or the original French ads from this place called hprints.com. The reason I left this one in here is because this was becoming a little too costly, and I didn't want it to be so extremely expensive. But you could add, if you're a collector, go to hprints.com. You can get original French advertisements from magazines in the 30s, 40s, 50s, of course. And then sometimes they'll digitize them. And depending on the quality of the digital, you can purchase them for anywhere from 18, 20 euro for one page, one digital, to 30, 40, 50 euro for one digital. It was an advertisement from Miss Dior, and see all the flowers there. Even though I'm being gentle with the pages, it's because of the layout. I didn't want to mess up the layouts too much. But it is, again, very, very, very strong spine. So the curved spine backed with mull, hence each leaf, so each 2 pages is stitched in French link, and then backed with mull, and then backed with that Oxford spine, so it can take all this weight. But here is a digital of a garden design underneath original postcard and original book pages. Mother, who built the garden that you're about to see. You'll see PET tape, pet tape, to put over your pressed flowers. In my own books, I like to just leave pressed flowers uncovered, but for longevity. Here's a tissue that I have from my Zazzle collection. It's just a dianthus, or a pinks, which he has used a lot in some of his. Here is an original on this parchment paper garden design. You'll notice some of these circular rounds, which I recreated onto this 1880s or 1870s French ledger. Or I used my handmade die using the pomegranate skin, and then I laid these doily pieces and dyed them. I laid them on there before I spread the dye because they represent some of the rounds that you'll actually see if you do an aerial shot of Granville. Where I place them there because he actually has pathways, or they do, of rose gardens, tall shrubs and trees. North is this way, so if you remember the Granville map in the very beginning, north is this way, and there are houses along the Normandy coast here that go up, and here's the westernly sunset. And then in this lace pocket, you'll find this arbor with roses. So these book pages, arbor of roses. He actually has a row of rose arbors along the edges here, and there are paths. So I tried to draw the paths here. There is some circular areas with rose pathways and gravels, benches along the edges so you can overlook the sea, different shrubs just to help with protect the garden itself, including these tall trees, the tall Japanese evergreens. Okay, here where it's not Christian obviously, but if he was still alive, he'd be overlooking the Normandy coast, or in some cases that could also be the south of France, overlooking the Côte d'Azur. Oh, here are some of the images that I had in my first digital, plus an antique image of along the cliff. That's not their cliff, but that's how they would be. So they're planted towards the edge of the property. Original piece of this garden design that came from the same book. From Chris. I'll link Chris's Instagram also. So the original French advertisement of Diorissimo. No, this one is, just the boutique itself. I'm not sure what year this one is, but this comes from Sarah Crafty Paper Bits, and here's the original French ad for Diorissimo. These French ads, if you're not getting them from Crafty Paper Bits, Petit Papier, or any Etsy sellers, go to eBay, or again, go to hprints.com. Here's the book page of this tulle dress, and I had the information. And this dress I love. This will be in book 2. But I'll try to include all the descriptions of each, and here I placed a little Polaroid of this dress to remind you to either put the dress away so that the book doesn't get too thick, and I had put it in this Dior box, or reimagined this dress. So imagine over 200 yards of tulle, and then the bodice itself covered the entire dress. This model was photographed by her husband, who is a Vogue photographer. Actually, this description goes with one of the, there'll be some plans, house plans, original architect plans later in the book. Die cut for the holidays, a little bit of the antique lace from the cover. These book pages that are really brittle from the 1910s. This one is 1880 actually. This is a magazine page from 1880. It actually represents a horse race because his mother was a rider, and they did come from money because of the family's fertilizer company. The father's fertilizer, and this is his father, Maurice. And the mother, I forget her name. Is it Madeline? I'm embarrassed to say I forget, even though I've been researching her for a couple of books now. Anyway, photos of them here. Some of the fabrics that actually represent fabrics from his sporting line, because Christian Dior in the early years actually had a sporting line while he was still alive. An original photo that represents his older brother, but it's not his older brother. I didn't see many. Papillons. This comes from another French book page in the 1900s, I think. I thought it would be my second design. I went ahead and added it to the page, so it's right on there. It's a chiffon dress, silk chiffon, from 1957, and it has flow here too. I thought I had a label on there. Oh, here's the label. Here's your dress number 2. These labels, again, is because Christian labeled everything with a number. I just went ahead and pinned it to this book page of butterflies, book plate. And this is supposed to be this dress here. So even though she has one shoulder, that kind of represents a one shoulder off. And then the flow of the silk chiffon. This was photographed in Paris. So what I like to do is, you'll see, I like to just wrap and sculpt the fabrics and then stitch in place to create the same flow or similar flow. So there's your evening silk chiffon, papillons, butterflies. And then there is this lace tab, antique French lace tab, with an earring that to me looked very similar to these butterflies. One is flat enough that I think it can stay in the book, but if whoever owns it wants to, they can put it away in the box. Oh, and here, yeah, this one will go in the box. This is my third design. So just like Christian did in the early years, this one I call Windflower. So the design itself, did I pin it? Yeah, I pinned it. Just a embroidery needle. I'm going to remove it. I sketched it first with a little watercolor and marker. So I wrote down what lengths I would probably make it if I were the designer. But imagine this on a doll or a model, and they're walking down a runway or at the ball. So one would be off shoulder, and then this would be over the shoulder. And then these different petal layers, so as they're walking in the wind, they look like a natural windflower or Japanese anemone. Layers of Dior tissue, crinkle paper. So that'll be a reminder that that dress is put away. And then here's your butterfly postcard, which is a tuck, an original label, which I didn't back, just so you could put that anywhere. They're very raw, just imagine this is owned by a designer who's just putting ideas in. This is an original Vogue order form from earlier. And then of course, maybe 2 years ago, I made my digitals of chinoiserie, and this is one of them, and one of the many bags you'll see in here, just so you can hide your journaling or your notes. Little altered paper clip using a old sticker. I made it look like a little butterfly, so there's the little antenna. Here's some of Eloise's 1926 original homework that I'll be digitizing. And it's kind of fun that she actually made all these different patterns and pattern pieces. So you could take the digital, which will be PNGs, and enlarge them so that you can actually print them to your tracing or your pattern papers. They lead a very upper middle class life. So, and he loved, or he owned a couple of museums, and he loved a certain style. So chandeliers. This is wax paper that I followed Sharon's tutorial for. Here's away. Here's one of my paper handmade dresses. So this one is not fabric, so this one could stay. But what I did was I took some a template, kept it out here. She actually has free sheets of tops and bottoms that you could use. So if you don't sculpt using fabric like I do, you could actually use her templates and cover them with your favorite papers. So this is a handmade paper, Nepal paper, and I did want to make it at least 2D, and I made it a matching, of course, little paper envelope so you can hide your secret notes in there. And I did label this one as dress number 6, I think, yeah, or dress 5. This represents the inside of their house in Granville, even though I've never been there, so I don't know. And then some of my pressed flowers, see, I don't like to cover them, but if you want to use some of your PE tape to cover, this is French onion skin paper, copies from Ina, so I think this came from a fabric house. Ina made a pocket for her journal. I don't think she's finished it yet, but I wanted to make it using the many wine labels that she sent me. And then here's some handmade paper. So inside there's a pocket for your journal notes, and then a second pocket behind the label. My very first fussy cut rose, I decided I know I'm not good at it. It took me way too long. I could probably embroider faster than I can fussy cut. But this is some lace paper from Inky Fingers Society. I got a lot of fun art papers from her. She saves me so much time because I don't have to coffee dye and or burn edges of paper. Original receipts, 1898, French onion skin covers. We're coming into a blue section here. Some of my own eco dyeing from last summer. a hidden paper clip, and some ephemera that Virginia had put in one of my kits here. But I can actually use that as a tuck, so you can put, you know, this one actually went with the other dress, but you can tuck anything behind there using these wallpaper bags that I got from Susan. So that's now a paper clip, so you can move your sacks around. But here is a dress from spring, summer 1953. It's a silk organza embroidered with, I think these might be, I don't remember, are these the Lily of the Valley flowers or forget-me-nots? But I did do it half sculpted fabric, half using Sasebo's paper templates, just again to save room. But this fabric I got from Lovely Lottie's, and it was already partially machine embroidered, so I just added some washi stickers, or stickers from Japan, from my friend. So she brought me back these Japanese stickers from Kyoto. So there they are. So it does add a little bulk because they're a 2D, 3D, 2D sticker for you to add. But this is how I typically do it. It was actually originally sculpted, but then I wanted it to have the same structure as the top. So I added Sasebo's template underneath to give this top structure to show you that you could do, you know, paper dresses as well. But I just love 3D sculpted dresses. Lots of original 1900s pages. Marie Curie, I just love her, even though this book page is from magazine's from 1910. But these are the strong women from his era, so he would have been 5 when she was awarded Nobel Prize. School book paper, French school book papers, just because, you know, to represent his childhood and for you to write in. Here's his birthday, January 21st. It's not 1905. This one is, what year is this? Oh, 1916. So one of the wars. Both he and his brother went into war, into the military. One of the shirts, patterns, original patterns from one of these magazine pages from the 1800s, and digitize it. So if anyone wants to recreate this tuxedo shirt, they can. I think it says nature is not a place to visit, it is a home. So I'll try to put that here throughout. Oh, this is from the 1894. So there's the pattern. This is him going to school, or represents him going to school, because his parents wanted him to go into politics, but they compromised, so he went to learn architecture and interior design and opened 2 museums. They left for a few years and lived in Paris during, I believe, during the war, and then also after they lost the house in the 20s due to the stock market crash. So matte piece, original French wallpaper from Miab. Architecture, so here's some French pages for your notes, which also included a little bit of garden design. And here's the free-floating home, the architect blueprint that went with the other onion skin. So I thought you could go ahead and plan your own gardens. An original Grand Magasin de Louvre envelope. It's pretty stiff. I'm trying not to put hard cardstock into my books anymore because they don't lay flat. But I did want this as a pocket, but because, here we go. Here's your slot, so you can put some of your ephemera or notes in there. And again, because he opened 2 museums, collections he might have had in his museum, and he had a love for museums the rest of his life, and incredible furniture, antique furniture. This is from a 1800s, early 1800s pottery history book. And he loved Persian rugs, so I chose some pottery from Persia. This one here is just a flip down, so you can hide any journaling in the back here. But a girl with a butterfly made an art book for her friend one year, and she used this book. So I've been on the hunt for this book and found it. So hopefully next year I can make something out of that book. Sack using wallpaper. and then a tag because of the blue dress. And this dress, actually, I used several books, right, or trademark. I had to sacrifice some of my original book pages, but this one is from the exhibit in, what is this language? Gosh, I should have had some coffee this morning to begin with. But anyway, he loved great museum pieces. So this dress comes from this book here, but I just wanted to show you this queen's armchair here. So these would have been some of the pieces that were either in his Provence house or in the museums, his 2 museums. And I love this dress. Another free floating book page that you can either leave in the book or put on the cover or use as a greeting card. I do have an envelope that'll fit this, but look at that embroidery. And this fabric is actually original. It's brocade from the 1750s, and this dress is circa 1957. Oh, the Qatar Museum. So this book here is from the Qatar Museum exhibit. It's coming from these pages, which I don't regret using at all. French pattern paper. Part of it was a washi paper that you could actually decoupage onto a plate. And I got this from Monahan Designs, Monahan Papers. But I just loved how it kind of mimics some of the imagery on the 17th, 16th century Persian pottery. So covered paper clip. This artwork, this page represents the museum curating that he had done. So this is a French book plate. And then again, you can get original or digitized magazine advertisements and pages. This one happens to have Lalonde into the 40s, or no, 1940s during World War II. So I have that in there. And again, because a lot of these are still copyrighted for the fashion houses, but he did work and create designs for Lucien Lalonde. So for whoever owns this, you could add your own and find images free images on Pinterest to add to your pages. And then of course find, you know, some Christian Dior sketches on Pinterest as well. Just because they're on Pinterest doesn't mean they're copyright free, by the way, just to be clear for anyone who might want to make and or sell anything. This one happens to be a ephemera collector's book keepsake, so I wanted to really be careful about where I purchased or curated my ephemera from. So again, these are from book pages. I think these are book pages from legendary 30 Avenue Montaigne book. So you'll see I already have pages where I have to take down the notes to include with the book pages that are here. What year the dresses are from. You'll see these in Seamstress. But there he is. They would have just giant posters, simple posters with sketch, the number of the dress, short description, and then some swatches of the dress possibilities. So that's there. So I have very simple ephemera just to represent simple sketch, description, fabric. Pages that you can use for your cover if you want to pin it to your cover over the fabrics. Oh, and here's my fourth or fifth dress.